Hello everyone, Nika here with your Daily Neuro Nugget. I hope you're having an amazing day. Please bear with me because it's a crazy day here in Chicago. I'm not sure if we still have a tornado warning, but very noisy in the living room. I can hear and see the lightning, so it's kind of intense today. But we are still here because we need to cover this whole FBI versus the state versus Ann Taylor. And it just seems that the FBI has jumped ship all of a sudden, and it is almost coming across as if they're on Mr. Kohberger's side all of a sudden. Now, I wanted to thank all of you for continuing to donate for Mr. Craig, our favorite veteran. The goal is $500. The Cash App is in the description if you want to donate. So thank you to everybody who has donated, and as a veteran myself, I appreciate it so much because let's be honest, the VA does not always cover everything we need. So thank you guys. And of course, before we get started, I will share my tea of the day. Some of you have asked me to put it in a glass cup in a clear mug, but I don't have one at this moment. So if you want to gift me a clear mug, I'll use it. Now, this tea, you can kind of see the color. It almost looks slightly orange-ish. It is called muicle, or Mexican honeysuckle, and it is so sweet on its own, has no bitterness whatsoever. You don't need to sweeten it. It's very refreshing, very light on the palate. And I love this because it is so amazing for me, for my migraines. So I used to suffer from migraines, and as a scientist who used to spend 12 plus hours on a microscope, well, cutting back on those hours and of course drinking this tea really helped with migraines. In traditional Mexican medicine, this tea is used as the headache preventative, and it's also amazing for acid reflux. But I found some studies that show that this tea is just so amazing to prevent aging in cells, and it does have some antibacterial properties. So if you have ever had this Mexican honeysuckle, let me know down in the comments. And again, bear with me as we go through this because the sound might be a little bit different here in my kitchen. So cheers. Refreshing. By the way, my favorite temperature to drink teas is not hot, it's lukewarm. I feel like it doesn't stain your teeth that way, but that's just me. So let's talk about the FBI. Are they going to retract the statements or the CASHAPP report that they shared with Moscow Police Department? It is imperative we cover what in the world is going on at this very moment with the FBI and the state and of course the defense. Because if the CAST analysis was favorable to the prosecution, I personally believe that the FBI would have willingly already handed this CAST report over. But again, that's my theory. So remember this as we're going through the video. But since the FBI is not wanting to be helpful to the defense, because we know that they are refusing to hand it over, but that also means that they're not helping the state either. So could it potentially be indirectly helping the defense? If the FBI is not able to verify their work, how they got to Brian Kohberger, and they're not wanting to share this information with the state, well, that means that the state is very likely not going to be able to use this information against Mr. Brian Kohberger. And what happens if we cannot tie Mr. Kohberger to the white car that Mr. Payne listed in his PCA? Well, does the state even have a case at all? But in the last hearing, we heard Billy Boy say we are using the TUI process. That basically just means that the feds are not cooperating with the state, and the state needs the FBI to be able to corroborate that information that they gave to the state to use against Brian Kohberger. And also, of course, to show how the FBI got to Brian and the white car. Again, just to remind you, we still don't know how the state truly got to Mr. Brian Kohberger. Now, if we go back to the PCA written by Brett Payne, this is what he said. He consulted with an FBI special agent that is CAST certified. So I went through the document just to refresh my memory, and it makes me wonder, so how involved is the FBI really? Or did Brett Payne just consult and come to his own conclusions? And something very interesting, I have to keep an eye on the time here because I have to go to my other job at 4. Something very interesting is that a lot of people do not realize that you cannot compel a federal agent to hand over whatever documents it is that the defense or the state needs. Because we see Billy time and time again saying, we have nothing, it is up to the FBI. And we know that it is time consuming, and we know that this is information that judge and the state should have looked into many months ago, not 17 months into this case, months ago. But interestingly, you can't force a federal agent to give you whatever documents you need. So again, when I mentioned the Harry S. Truman quote about the CIA, which is of course different yet kind of similar to the FBI, about them being very powerful, he compared them to the Gestapo. Well, he wasn't very far off in my opinion, because even if an FBI agent gets subpoenaed, they have qualified immunity and they don't have to show up. You can't force them. The state or the defense or the judge cannot force a federal agent to show up. And they are qualified to basically be protected at all costs, right? So isn't that kind of eye-opening to know that they can almost say and do whatever they want or not do? This means that no person can sue the government without having permission to do so. That is what the TUI process is, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Imagine asking the government saying, well, you guys have not given us what we need to proceed. So can we please sue you? All the FBI has to turn around and say is no. And that's it. That's final. It's done. Qualified immunity. They also have de facto absolute immunity for federal workers who violate the Constitution. Yes, you heard that right, ladies and gentlemen. So, what do you think about the Harry S. Truman quote now? Do you think that these triple letter agencies have gotten way too powerful? Because it should make us wonder, right? If they can violate the Constitution whenever they choose to and not be held accountable, is that maybe something that we should be looking into changing? Maybe, just maybe. So the FBI is not helping the defense, because we know the defense wants whatever the FBI has. But when the FBI willingly chooses to not help the defense or the state in this case, it's usually because there is something illegal going on, or if there is a direct or indirect threat to national security. So that would make it so that the FBI is not able to share information. But in this case, I don't think that is the case. I don't think there's a threat to national security. They're just choosing not to share this information. And in serious crimes, we know this is one of the most serious crimes that has taken place in the entire country. For young people, their lives taken as they slept in their own home. It is very serious. And in these cases, when the FBI gets involved, they get involved usually to help, to clear things up, to put the right guy behind bars. But in this case, we have such a serious crime, and yet the FBI is appearing to take a step back and say, maybe we don't want to get involved. Maybe we don't want to turn information over. And why would they not want to help the state? Are they on Mr. Kohberger's side? Did they maybe realize that, hey, whatever little bit of information that we gave to Mr. Brett Payne was severely, potentially taken out of context, and potentially they have an innocent guy behind bars. We probably just don't want to get involved. That's one scenario, right? So the only reason I can think of with the FBI choosing not to get involved is that they likely cannot replicate their results. And that means that if they can't do that, then the CAST report can potentially get excluded from the case. And that could potentially lead this case to be dropped and not even go to trial, because we heard Judge mention something similar under his breath at the last hearing. Did he not? There were a lot of things said under people's breath. So the vibe that I am now getting from the FBI is that they are throwing the state, they're throwing Billy Boy under the bus, right? Because they said, here's a little tip, here's a little something, but we have washed our hands. It is not our problem anymore, so figure it out. But at the same time, if the FBI chose willingly to not get heavily involved, and we don't really know to what extent they are involved in, but per Brett Payne's affidavit, we know it was the CAST report. So that special agent that was CAST certified was an FBI agent. Why is he suddenly throwing Billy under the bus? And I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories, but some people have speculated that maybe this is a whole false case. It's all made up to try and see who uses and abuses the system. I personally think that, again, the FBI just gave Moscow Police Department a tip, maybe to try to be helpful, and that was it. They don't want any further involvement. So again, it will be interesting to see where this goes. Why? Because the FBI chooses to not help the state. That might end up helping Mr. Brian Kohberger. So let me know, what do you think of the FBI being involved in this case? Do you think it is possible that Brett Payne did some word maneuvering in his PCA? Something to think about. That is something that can happen when people are rushed, when police departments are focused on having somebody behind bars, because you can find almost any person to fit the crime, but we really want the right person. So you guys have a wonderful night. Let me know if you have tried this tea. If you want to donate for our favorite veteran Craig, the description for the Cash App is down below, as well as the name of this tea. So have a wonderful night, guys. Take care and see you soon.